जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
गोपी जन वल्लभा
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी
यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन
यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
वनचारी
राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माधव
एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस जगचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमदेसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस जगचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत गिरि वैष्णवृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की एवं श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की All glories to Hare Krishna. All glories to Hare Krishna. All glories to Hare Krishna. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Okay, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 16, 11. Here we go here. Sorry. There's a lot of tabs open. So, where'd it go? 424. Sorry, give me 1 second here. Have it open. Okay, I'll have to reopen it. I don't know what happened to it. Okay. 3:16. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Okay, yeah.
ये
Let me share the page. Okay. Brahmanan
ब्राह्मणान्
मयि
मयि
धिया
धिया
ततः
क्षिपतः
अर्चयन्तः
अर्चयन्तः
तुष्यत्
तुष्यत्
हृदः
हृदः
स्मित
स्मित
सुधा
सुधा
उक्षित
उक्षित
पद्म
पद्म
वक्त्राः
वक्त्राः
वाण्या
वाण्या
अनुराग
अनुराग
कलया
कलया
आत्मजवत्
आत्मजवत्
घृणन्तः
गृह्णन्तः
सम्बोधयन्ति
सम्बोधयन्ति
अहम्
अहम्
इव
इव
अहम्
अहम्
उपाहृतः
उपाहृतः
तैः
तैः
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतो रुचयन्तस्
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतो चयन्तस्
तुष्यधृधस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
तुष्यधृतस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
वाण्यानुरागकल्यात्मजवद्गृह्णन्त
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
सम्बोधयन्ति अहमिवाहमुपाहृततैः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्थैः
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतो रुचयन्त
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्चयन्तस्
तुष्यधृढस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
तुष्यदृतस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
वाण्यानुरागकल्यात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
सम्बोधयन्ति अहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्तैः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमतीवहमुपाहृतस्तैः
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्चयन्त
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्चयन्तस्
तुष्यदृढस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
तुष्यदृढस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
सम्बोधयन्ति अहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्तैः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्थैः
Please repeat.
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्चयन्तस्
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्चयन्तस्
तुष्यदृढस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
तुष्यधृतस्मितसुधोक्षतपद्मवक्त्राः
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
अन्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्थैः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्तैः
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्चयन्तस्
ये ब्राह्मणान् मयि धिया क्षिपतोर्जयन्तः
तुष्यदृढस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
तुष्यदृढस्मितसुधोक्षितपद्मवक्त्राः
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
वाण्यानुरागकलयात्मजवद्गृह्णन्तः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्थैः
सम्बोधयन्त्यहमिवाहमुपाहृतस्थैः
ये
ये
persons.
which persons?
Brahmana, the
Brahmanan,
Brahmanas,
the Brahmanas.
Mai,
Mai, in me.
Dhiya,
Vya,
intelligence,
with intelligence.
Kripataha,
Kripataha,
uttering harsh words,
uttering harsh words.
Chyantaha,
Vachayantaha,
respecting,
respecting.
Tushyat,
Tushyat,
gladdened,
gladdened.
Hridaha,
Vidaha,
hearts,
hearts.
Smita,
Vida,
Sudha, sorry, smiling,
smiling.
Sudha,
Dha,
nectar,
nectar.
Kshita,
Ukshita,
wet,
wet.
Padma,
Padma,
lotus-like,
lotus-like.
Traha,
Uttaha,
faces,
faces.
Vanya,
Vanya,
words,
with words.
Anuraga,
Anuraga,
Kalaya,
Kalaya,
loving,
loving.
Atmajavat,
Atmajavat,
like a sun,
like a sun.
Nantaha,
Rinantaha,
praising,
praising.
Sambodhayanti,
Sambodhayanti,
pacify, Aham,
Aham,
I,
I.
Iva,
Iva,
as,
as.
Aham,
Aham, I.
Paritaha,
Paritaha,
being controlled,
being controlled.
Taihi,
Taihi,
by them.
by them.
Translation before by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai Prabhupada.
On the other hand, they captivate my heart, who are gladdened in heart, and who, their lotus faces enlightened by nectarian smiles, respect the Brahmanas, even though the Brahmanas utter harsh words. They look upon the Brahmanas, my own self, and pacify them by praising them in loving words, even as a son would appease an angry father, or as I am pacifying you. But it's been observed in many instances in the Vedic scriptures that when the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas curse someone in an angry mood, the person who is cursed does not take it upon himself to treat the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas in the same way. There are many examples of this. For instance, the sons of the Kuberas, when cursed by the great sage Narada, did not seek revenge in the same harsh way, but submitted. Here also, when Jai and Vijay were cursed by the four Kumaras, they did not become harsh towards them. Rather, they submitted. That should be the way of treating Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. One may sometimes be faced with grievous situations created by a Brahmana, but instead of meeting him with a similar mood, one should try to pacify him with a smiling face and maltreatment. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas should be accepted as earthly representatives of Narayana. Nowadays, some foolish persons have manufactured the term Daridra Narayana, indicating that the poor man should be accepted as representative of Narayana. But in Vedic literature, we do not find the poor men should be treated as representatives of Narayana. Of course, those who are unprotected are mentioned here, but the definition of this phrase is clear from the Shastras. The poor man should not be unprotected, but the Brahmana should especially be treated as representative of Narayana, and one should be worshipped like him. It is specifically said that to pacify the Brahmanas, one's face should be lotus-like. A lotus-like face is exhibited when one is adorned with love and affection. In this respect, the example of the fathers being angry at the son and the sons trying to pacify the father with smiling and sweet word is very appropriate. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmitamena Tasmai Shigrive Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadama Hyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Groshayata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagra Chatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaditam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Rahita Shri Vijakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhi Dinavanda Jagadvati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustati Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hripiye Vanchakaptarabhesha Kripa Sindhi Patitanam Pavanivyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtapatari Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Nitamane Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtapatari Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachani Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jnananandammayam Devam Nirlamashpratikakriti Madharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinir Smarana Hoy Vigna Vinashanaya Shahai Nijavanchita Puranam. Okay, so important points Krishna is making here, Vishnu is making here. To the Kumars, is making it a point that here, that on the other hand, they captivate my heart who are gladdened in heart, and who their lotus faces enlightened by nectar and smiles respect the Brahmanas, even though the Brahmanas utter harsh words. So some clarification also here is that there is a distinction between those Vaishnavas. There's Vaishnavas or those devotees of the Lord who are Brahmanas, and there's devotees of the Lord who are Vaishyas, Shudras, women, and all of the classes are devotees of the Lord. And he does not, they may be situated in a particular varna, but he is nonetheless captive. He's gladdened. They captivate my heart, who are gladdened in heart and who their lotus faces enlightened by smiles respect the Brahmanas. So it's important to note here that the Vaishnavas, of course we've mentioned that Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana, because ultimately the goal of being a Brahmana is to be able to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead and teach others how to love Him also. That's the position of a Brahmana. What does he do? He teaches. He teaches. That is what a Brahmana does. He is the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as we just heard of yesterday. The Brahmanas act as the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That Shruti, or they're able to give, they're able to shravan and kirtan, they're able to specifically glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead and teach the rest of society how to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They mean to guide the rest of the society. So in that way, they act as the mouths of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so it's important for us to that was just a side point, that sometimes no distinctions made, but actually there is Brahmanas that Krishna Daivi Shuguna Mayi Mama Maya, Chaturvarna Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vyagashaha, that by the quality of work, and Krishna has divided these sections of society into Brahmana, into Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. Why? In order for them to be able to act in their occupancy, in their occupational position, and serve the Supreme Personality Godhead like that. Not that everybody's equal. Sometimes we have that misconception that we're all equal. And there's this Mukunda Datta Prabhu just posted a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and a disciple of his. And his wife was very angry at Srila Prabhupada. And she said about Srila Prabhupada that sometimes Prabhupada says things that are not practical, even when Prabhupada was around. Let me pull this up, it's in this chat here. So this conversation goes that she says that, she was upset with Srila Prabhupada because Prabhupada didn't acknowledge that men and women are both equal. So Tilak's wife, she told me she was very upset. One day when she came to see you, and that one rascal yogi was there, and he said that in Vedas everything is mentioned that we can drink, and women and men have equal right. Then you answered her, and she was also saying the same thing, and you answered, okay, if women and men have equal right, then why not your husband beget the children? No, why not you beget the children in the womb of your husband? And she was very upset. She said Prabhupada sometimes says things that are like that which are unreasonable. So that was going on even at that time, that the feminist kind of idea was doubting the Shastra, and the pure devotee also, who is citing Shastra. And, it's a practical thing that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning. No, you cannot be man. Man is not equal to woman. Similarly, Vaishya is not equal to a Brahmana. Shudra is not equal to a Brahmana. The Kshatriyas are not equal to the Brahmanas. They all have their different position and posts in order to be able to carry the society out properly, as Prabhupada was mentioning. The head and the legs and in lectures pretty much all over the place, Prabhupada says. Now, not that, Prabhupada mentions here actually in this conversation, not that the women are less important, but they just have a different duty. He says here that women, so Chaitanya Guru says that women are subordinate, and Prabhupada said not subordinate actually, the occupation are different. It does not mean that is another mistake. Just like the leg is walking, the head is directing. So although the occupation is different, both of them are important. We require the head and leg also. If simply head is there, if there is no leg, then who will walk? This is the understanding, not equal. Everyone must have his separate duties to serve the whole. This is the arrangement. This is real understanding. So, with modern feministic society, which anything that is considered lower or higher, or they don't see it in terms of the Vedic understanding. This is the first problem that Prabhupada is saying, pointing out immediately, that you think just because you have a different occupation, you're lower and I'm higher, or I'm lower and you're higher. That is your mistake, and that's the mistake. When we make arguments with people, immediately we go, no, this is your misconception. You're thinking that a woman is lower and a man is higher. We're not saying that. We're saying they have different occupations. Now, if you're saying that occupation is lower, that's your problem. That's not our problem. We're not saying that. We're not saying women are lower, and women have a particular position and they should carry out that position because they have their particular type of karma, guna and karma. Similarly, the Brahmanas have a particular type of guna and karma. The Kshatriyas and everybody else has a particular type of guna and karma in order to carry out that action perfectly. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that even if one does somebody else's duty properly, still it is not good. But if you do your own duty perfectly, then that is fine. Better to do one's own duty imperfectly than to do someone else's duty perfectly. Because what does Krishna say at the end of that? He says, because you'll never be overcome by sin. Because you're situated in that position, you'll never be overcome by sin. Because if you take up on the position of a Brahmana, but you have the guna and karma of a Kshatriya, a Brahmana is not allowed to kill like that. That tendency may overcome. That old, as Srila Prabhupada sometimes says, old habits sometimes, our natures show up one way or another. Our natures, it's almost like we can't get away from our nature. It's almost like that. Unless one is very determined and fully dedicated to Guru and Krishna, and he's fully surrendered and on the platform, approaching that platform of transcendence, then that may be possible. But to overcome, it's better to work with one's nature than to try to fight against it most of the time. It's better to work with what we have than try to fight against it, because most of the time we're in a losing battle. So it's better that we recognize what our nature is, where we are in the varna and ashramas, and work according to that. And in that way, one remains pacified, one remains satisfied, and one makes proper advancement in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, advancement becomes very troublesome, like I said, unless one has that sheer determination just to go through anything and everything. And he will have to go through it. If he really is trying to change his nature, he has to go through a lot of suffering, because he's going against the mature nature. And we know what Krishna says about mature nature. It's very difficult to overcome. So, specifically mentioned here, the Brahmanas. Now, the Brahmanas are given the position and the post by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not by birth, not by birthright. No way does it say jata in terms of one's birth. It doesn't say janma. It doesn't say janma and guna. It doesn't say janma and karma. It specifically says guna and karma. So one should understand that guna karma vivagashah, that it's by that quality. Specifically, it's stressing that one's quality. And what is that quality of a Brahmana? Samadama tapasaucham shantir archamevecha jnana vijnana ashtikam brahma karma swabhavaja. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So when a Brahmana has these qualities, he's actually, when a devotee he has these qualities, he is considered a Brahmana. And of course, these qualities are also not different from just practicing devotional service. They are a natural byproduct. And of course, Brahmanas are situated in study and so many other things there. But specifically, wisdom is there, knowledge, of course. So that is there, and of course, in bhakti also, when one practices devotional service, he has all the knowledge. Why? Because he understands that Krishna, Ishvarak Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha. There is no other knowledge required. But still, nonetheless, that the Brahmanas have the ability to study very deeply in Shastra and give that knowledge. Now, a Vaishnava has already reached the end of our knowledge, Vedanta, by his practice of devotional service. Therefore, he is higher than a Brahmana. Nonetheless, he acts within his realm of guna and karma that he has acquired also. So, here we see that the Brahmana is given that position by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And sometimes the Brahmana may exhibit anger, or the Vaishnavas may exhibit anger. And curse does not take it up to treat the Brahmanas. So, it should be understood, one who is actually a Vaishnava, the main quality of a Vaishnava is that he has humility. Humility and renunciation, these two are as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, how does that? Tinandapi sunichena taror avisahishna amanina manadina kirtaniha sadhari. And when that string of verses comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you should wear this verse around your neck, because that is the importance that is given. That mood of humility is there. And then also that verse is there that these Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers they are vairagyas. They are symptomized by their renunciation also. So it should be seen also that when sometimes we are cursed or treated harshly by a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, but it should not be that we develop aversion to those Vaishnavas. Actually, that is, the Prabhupada specifically says here that the sons of Kuvera, when cursed by Narada, they did not seek revenge in the same harsh way. And Jaya and Vijaya, neither do they do that also. They simply accept that curse or that chastisement by a Brahmana. Why? Understanding that it is ultimately the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of time. And for those who have engaged in pure devotional service, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, speaking through the mouth of the Brahmanas, maybe in a harsh way to rectify us, or in order to put us in a position in which we become more closer to Krishna. So that which comes out of the Brahmana's mouth, because he is acting on the, as long as he's situated properly, he's acting on the behalf of the Supreme Personality Godhead. That's what it means to be a Brahmana. That there is never wrong done in one's life. That although sometimes one may feel wrongly done when we get chastised or when we put in a difficult situation, as Srila Prabhupada says, nonetheless, it is the mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead, because we can understand that that the Supreme Personality Godhead is given that person that post. So just like we see also, I mean, Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, if Parikshit was never cursed by Shringi to be, killed by that snake, would we heard the Bhagavatam? Some arrangement would have been there, but not in the same way. If Jai and Vijay, if they didn't get cursed by Narada, they wouldn't have had the personal association of Krishna. If Jai and Vijay didn't, sorry, I said the Kuveras, right? Not the Kuveras. If Kuveras didn't get cursed by Narada, they wouldn't have had the personal association of Krishna. And if Jai and Vijay also protested, they wouldn't have been able to supply the Lord with pleasure of being able to fight in the material world as great demons. So we see that again and again, that the curse of the Brahmanas or the Vaishnavas, they never actually are meant to do harm to the living entities. As we see that actually in the third canto or the fourth canto, Brahma mentions that actually the highest most quality of a Brahman is forgiveness. That they're able to forgive. And we see that they have peacefulness, austerity, self-control. So when a Brahmana curses someone, it is never for their destruction. When a Brahmana curses someone, it should be like that they're trying to benefit the people at mass. That is the position of a Brahmana. He never curses someone with the intention of doing harm to them. He may curse someone. For example, a Brahmana may curse, I curse you that that your material life completely falls apart. For what purpose? Just because I hate you? No. So that you can take upon the shelter of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Or a Brahmana may curse in anger sometimes. A person who is being duplicitous, or sometimes they're being, they're harming other Vaishnavas. So, and even that curse that will bring about some attraction to the Supreme Personality Godhead, or some surrender to the Supreme Personality Godhead. Or it may result in their own benefit, just like we see that the Brahmanas with King Vena, they killed him. Why? Because he was causing so much disturbance in the kingdom, and understood, it's better he just suffers for his sins now also. So they killed him, so that he may not also suffer in his next life. So the Brahmanas ultimately act out of the good for the society and good for the individual also. That is their perfect action. The ultimate good for the individual. So the Brahmanas, they're situated in knowledge. They know what is to be done, what is not to be done. So one should not seek revenge, as Prabhupada says, in the same harsh way that a Brahmana sometimes seemingly may treat another person. One should try to take a humble position, take upon that chastisement, rectify oneself, and treat the Brahmanas in a very, very nice way, knowing that they're direct representatives of the Supreme Personality Godhead and the Vaishnavas, of course. Specifically mentioning here Brahmanas. And Prabhupada mentioned that should be the way of treating Brahmanas, Vaishnavas. One may sometimes be faced with a grievous situation created by a Brahmana, but instead of meeting with him in a similar mood, one should try to pacify him with a smiling face and mild treatment. And Prabhupada gives us how to exactly do that also. It's very nice. That we should be self-controlled enough and humble enough to not fight with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. That is, it should be that. Of course, our society, unfortunately, it's not always like that. But it should be that we should not try to cause a situation that is worse than the one that may also already be there. Even if one is faced with grievous situation, one should not meet in a similar mood with the Brahmana. One should take a humble position, calm down the situation, and try to lighten up the situation and deal with it in that way. This is very good advice, and it's not good advice just dealing with Brahmana, it's good advice in general also. This is that if there is some difficult situation where there is a lot of heat, a lot of exchanges of, a lot of going on, it's better for one to stay quiet than to speak. Because when one speaks in a mood of anger and frustration, there is situations that may be very small, but because of one's sharp tongue, one's inability to control one's tongue, he turns that situation in a much, much worse situation. A situation which could have been just resolved within those 5 minutes, but a situation that will carry out for the next 30 years. That is the difficulty one brings upon oneself by not being able to control himself in a grievous situation, in which one has the impulse and anger may build up. But if one should remember these instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should calm oneself down, let the situation settle, as Srila Prabhupada says, that one should pacify with him a smiling and mild treatment, that one should remain situated properly, not disturbed, and then may not be in that same instant, one may get away from the situation to come down and then come back. Think about all of these things that are in the Bhagavatam, all of these situations that have gone on. Pacify oneself by hearing about the glories of the Supreme Lord in all of these different circumstances. Just go back to the Bhagavatam, read the Bhagavatam, calm the mind down, chill out, relax, and go back to the Vaishnava and see what the situation is. And the Brahmanas generally, sometimes they may be in an angry mood, and it's not a best time to discuss in an angry mood. So you go back in a time when the Brahman is also not in that angry position. He may have been angry with a justified reason, or sometimes unjustified reason also. It's not that it's always the case that the Brahman is exactly, sometimes he may also exhibit that, and with reasons that he may have. So when one approaches that Brahmana again in a proper mood and proper time and circumstance, you have to understand, just like there's like a whole science of when a wife should approach a husband. One should never approach her husband for something when he just comes back from work. It's like a whole science of this. One should approach a husband when she sits him down, feeds him a nice meal, and he's pacified with that meal, and then she should approach the husband for whatever she wants. Because the husband is in a pacified position. Similarly, the Brahmanas are the same. When the Brahmanas are in a better position, or when there is a better mood or atmosphere, one should approach the Brahmanas at that time in order to discuss little more pressing issues. One shouldn't try to discuss it in weird circumstances or difficult circumstances. For example, you have something you want to discuss that could be agitating. Don't do it at 9 o'clock at night. That agitates someone more. It's not the time. It's a better time when you want to discuss something heavy. Okay, the Brahmanas or the devotees, they just took prasadam and they look very happy. Okay, maybe it's time to now approach this subject matter. So one has to, for example, you don't want to approach a subject matter just before lunch and it's a heavy subject matter and a disturbing subject matter, and you might think something might happen. You don't want to approach that before lunch, because they become agitated and they don't even want to eat their lunch anymore. So one has to be intelligent in when one converses with Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, because it can cause havoc to not just one's own life, but to the lives of others also, because it's disturbing. It may create a disturbing situation in the whole community, just by one person not being able to control their mouth, control their tongue. So it's important that such importance be given to the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, as Prabhupada says, because everyone's not equal. Prabhupada just making the point again at the end here. They're not equal. It's not that the poor people are Daridra Narayan. No. It's Bhagavatam, Shastra, specifically the Brahmanas, they're the representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because they study Shastra, they study properly, and they act accordingly to what Krishna wanted, and Krishna set that system up like that. So of course, everybody is Prabhupada saying, of course, everybody is part and parcel of Narayan, and if everybody is spirit soul, but the Brahmana are specially to be treated as representatives of Narayana and should be worshipped like that. But those who don't understand culture, those who don't understand the proper behavior of sadachar, they bring destruction upon themselves. Because even if the Brahmana is wrong, or he's wrong in his anger, if you as an individual don't act properly, then you're also liable for reaction. Because what is our position? Our position, we respect the order that the Supreme Personality of God is set. So if we respect that dharma rakshati dharmata, that one who protects dharma, he's protected. So one should understand one's position and not act out of that position. Because even if the Brahmana is wrong and you say, oh, he's wrong, so I can act however I like. No. Now you're also implicated into that whole situation in which offense and so many things are there. So one shouldn't think, oh, just because somebody else is acting out of position, now I should also act out of position. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur relates to his disciples, he had one temple president who was just taking all of the money. And he had his sannyasis going out and begging. And they came and complained. He said, he's taking all the money. We're working hard, and he's taking all the money. We don't want to do this anymore. He said, who do you think you are? You go out and you beg. Don't worry about what happens after that. You do your duty, and even though it was clear that he was stealing money, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made it a point to his disciples. You do your duty. That's what Krishna says. You do your duty. Don't, just because somebody else is not doing their duty, you don't go out of line. You remain within the realm of dharma, within the realm of proper conduct, proper practice. Because if we do that, we're always protected. We're always protected by the Supreme Personality Godhead for following His instructions. We can understand that. For surrendering unto the Supreme Personality Godhead through His instructions, through the system that He has set up, we will always be protected. Even though in circumstances it seems like we should act out of line. But if we just stay within that, however we're situated, we'll always be protected. And we'll see that in our life. So otherwise, it causes so many problems. So we see that within our society now, there's no respect for Brahmanas. There's no respect for Brahmanas because they label those Vaishnava Brahmanas as smartas. They say, oh, this is all smarta. You're trying to cite Shastra and do all this. This is all smarta influence that you're bringing into the society. It's nonsense. This smarta, this is all just rules and regulations that they just so hell-bent upon that they forget about worshipping Krishna. But the Brahmanas, the Vaishnava Brahmanas, they're making a point to protect the devotional service of the Lord so that this yoga nashta doesn't happen again. Not that we lose the Vaishnava cult, the culture of Vaishnavism. We don't lose it. They're trying to protect, but they give no significance to it. They give significance to who? They're either Narayanas. Oh, we're all representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's exactly what they say. But it doesn't say that in Shastra. Not that everybody is, of course, as a Vaishnava, one is representing Narayana, but the Brahmana specifically should be given emphasis. Especially, Brahmana Vaishnavas, they should be given, because they have studied Shastra, but we see there's so much offense. And Prabhupada is saying one shouldn't act, even if one feels wrongly done, they shouldn't act the same way. We see what's going on. Although those Brahmanas are acting according to proper conduct and behavior and sadachar and making it as clear as possible, those who are on the opposing side, because they feel offended, what are they saying? That you're stabbing the body of Srila Prabhupada. How can you say that? You say that to a Vaishnava who is trying his best to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in accordance with Shastra. What is that? How does Krishna feel about that? How does the Vaishnava feel? Oh, can you imagine? You're serving Srila Prabhupada, you're going through his books, you're making it very clear what Prabhupada wanted, and you're going through Shastra, and somebody tells you you're stabbing Srila Prabhupada. It's like how much that must pain that Vaishnava, and how displeased the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes by the actions of such people. What happens? What does Krishna say? What do? I cast him into what position? Those who are envious, not just of me, of my devotees also. Love me, love my dog. Love me, love my dog. Prabhupada often said like that over here. Guru Maharaj say like that. So there is a Vaishnav conduct, and we can see, though they have not captured that. And so we can just see by their actions and their behavior that they're not to be given so much significance. Just by the way they act, just by the way they're speaking, the way they're acting, how they even make proper argument, the arguments they make, it's all shallow, low grade, unshastric, you just cannot take it and give it any significance. But the only significance you can give it is that it's all offensive. And it's not just a thing, oh, okay, they say, oh, that's one of the tactics they're using. No, there's a proper, look at the presentation that is there of Shastra. They don't give it no significance. Why? Because Prabhupada said. Actually, there's a scholar that says that, that writes that practically, because there's so much of what Prabhupada said, and so much conversations that have been recorded, you can make up whatever the hell you want from Prabhupada's says. You can make up anything to be true from Prabhupada's said. We don't take that so significantly. How do we take Srila Prabhupada? If Srila Prabhupada, what Srila Prabhupada is saying, and seems to be contradictory to Shastra, or if it's confusing, how do we understand it? Do we reject it? Do we reject what Prabhupada said? It's a big question. No, we don't reject it. That's what they think. We think, oh, if we don't agree with Prabhupada, we reject it. No, what do we do? Go to Shastra. Guru Sadhu Shastra, what is it? Sadhu Guru Shastra, but then the Chaitanya Kariya, Sadhu Guru Shastra Vakya, Chittate Kariya Aikya. I believe that's the verse, that one should consult the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, and what's at the center? Shastra is at the center. And Guru Maharaj makes that, people will say controversial, that the Krishna consciousness movement is not meant to become just like Prabhupada consciousness. It's natural because we love Prabhupada. But it's Krishna consciousness, and that's what Srila Prabhupada taught us. Similarly, it's Shastra is in the center, not the Guru. We take Guru to understand Shastra, but Shastra ultimately is in the center. Without, what is it? Guru Maharaj says that there is no, first comes the philosophy, that one should understand the Shastra first. One should, well, it has to be understood Guru, but one should always go to Shastra. The philosophy is there, and then the Guru comes later. That because we don't just, just like we come to Krishna consciousness, we don't just go and take initiation from a Guru. What do we do first? Study. We study Bhagavatam, we study Shastra. And then we take it upon a Guru with the understanding, because if you just take up on a Guru, then you don't understand who that Guru is and what his position is. He may be a pure devotee or he may be a cheat. But we understand Srila Prabhupada is Shakti Vyesh Avatar. So how do we take his words and everything that he said? With reference to Shastra. With reference to Shastra. And if you examine Srila Prabhupada's words in reference to Shastra, you will find how it's all perfectly related. And so one has to, and there's, of course, the Acharya has the position and the ability to make exceptions, but not that those exceptions become a principle as they're trying to make it. As there's also in difficult times, Shastra gives certain, like just like in the Narada Pancharatra, at emergency times, Shudras can take up on the position of Brahmanas. And he was saying that actually, as soon as you start chanting Hare Krishna and following the four regulated principles, you come within the Varnashram system. And from there, if one, in the emergency time, even a Shudra can, he has to take the qualities upon, but he can, even in that position, can take up on the, position of a Brahmana. So one has to study Shastra, and one has to take the words of the spiritual master and be able to understand him in light of Shastra. Not that they're understood independently. And also we have different pramanas. Of course, we take Srila Prabhupada's books to be the highest pramana. And at the bottom is the conversations and the letters and all of this. So there are different levels. And so most of this recitation, if you see these people, the brahmanas you see there, everything Srila Prabhupada said, and then there's like, this is what Shastra is saying, this is what Prabhupada is saying, and this is how we understand it. That's the perfect order, as Srila Prabhupada taught us. But what are they doing? This is what Prabhupada said. Shastra says this, but we can neglect what Shastra says because Prabhupada said it. This is offensive. This is wrong. This is not the way that we are taught in our Sampradaya. So one has to give very great significance to the words of the Brahmanas. One has to treat the Brahmanas properly, as Prabhupada says here, that one should, a lotus-like face is exhibited when one is adorned with love and affection. In this respect, the example of father being angry at the son and the son trying to pacify the father's smiling and sweet words is very appropriate. So one should have love for the Vaishnavas. I hope we do. And even though sometimes they act out of line accordingly, we still don't lose love for them. It's very important. It's not the same as people in the material world that mess us over in our life sometimes. And the Vaishnavas, you understand, they're dear to the Supreme Personality Godhead. Even Krishna says that apiset suduracharo, that even if he commits the most abominable activity, is still what? His sadhur evacha mantavya, that he's still considered a sadhu, samyak vyavastito hisaha, because he's properly situated in his determination. He's still practicing. And Krishna, and just kind of this reference here reminds me of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, is that those who consider him saintly in time come to perfection. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace, O son of Kunti. Who attains? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that person who considers that Vaishnava a Vaishnava, a real Vaishnava, that he still considers him a sadhu, he becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. And Krishna is saying the same thing here. On the other hand, they captivate my heart, who are gladdened in heart and who, with their lotus places, enlightened by nectar and smiles, respect the Brahmanas, even though the Brahmanas utter harsh words. Not that they're unrighteous in this particular circumstance, but just connecting the two, that even though, so if one is treating the Vaishnavas properly, Krishna becomes captivated by their actions. So therefore, there's a lot of emphasis on sadachar, on one's behavior, in the way one acts towards Vaishnavas, the way one sees the Vaishnavas. That even if they're acting out of line, even some Vaishnavas fall from their position, or they have difficulty in their life, we still have to take upon our understanding, okay, these people, they're still, glorious. They're still okay. It's not all over. There's a recent lecture by Guru Maharaj saying it's never over. He may have committed some abominable activity. He was saying even Hitler, he's considered like a demon. And he was saying in Tamil Nadu, you guys don't know him much, and even the apparently the mayor of Tamil Nadu at one point name was Hitler, and that's how much they don't really mind so much over there. But he was saying, but ultimately, even Hitler is a jiva that is actually part and parcel of Krishna. And even in time, he can become rectified and come to the platform of pure devotional service. What to speak of those who are already on the path, who are already trying and have messed up in different ways. So we should see like that, and we should treat the Vaishnavas with affection. And what type of affection? Prabhupada says, he says with love and affection, and how? He says, just like a child tries to pacify his father. I'm sure everybody's seen those movies in which, the kids look real cute, like they do something stupid, the father gets angry, and the kids look at the father, and the camera is like looking at them, and they just look really cute. Anyways, it reminded me of this stupid film. There's a film called Puss in Boots, is that right? And it's like this little cat, and he's like, I don't even know what that was. That was from Shrek, right? Offshoot from Shrek. And basically, there's like people that are angry at him, and he looks at them, and he looks like the cutest thing ever. And all of the dacoits that want to kill him, they all just kind of melt, and they are like put all their stuff down. And because of course he attacks him and all that, but just kind of, that's like the image that I got in my head when Srila Prabhupada is saying that there's like that there's no. The face is the index to the mind. So if one's mind is actually situated properly, that one, although he hears harsh words, he still considers the Vaishnava with love and affection, and he approaches the Vaishnava like that, it will be seen. It will be seen. It will be seen, oh, okay, this person, it's seen in the face, oh, okay, is this person mad at me? Is this person okay with me? It's seen. And just like when somebody, just like on Sankirtan also, when you approach someone with a smile, people can't help but just like melt away a little bit, like, all right, fine, whatever. And Vaishnava's hearts are very soft also. So if we can understand all these things, contemplate upon all of these things, our life becomes very nice, even though sometimes we get into weird circumstances, but just the Bhagavatam, or just realizing more and more, when you read the Bhagavatam and you practice what's in the Bhagavatam, don't cover that, huh? The bread, don't cover that. Okay. So when we apply what's in the philosophy and we read Prabhupada's books and we contemplate upon them, in difficult circumstances, we should always have that in our minds. Just like a lawyer knowing his law books, he can immediately pull up these references. When under difficult circumstances, what should we do? We should contemplate upon Shastra. We should contemplate upon all of these things that the Shruti, the Smriti, the one that we read, that Mahotsa Prabhu is reading through now. I forget the name for that. Not Nyaya. This Niti Shastra. Niti Shastras are very important in behavior and understanding how to act in certain circumstances. If we can absorb all of these things, just like I've absorbed all of these movies from all my life, and anytime some sort of like situation comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like that movie. Hopefully one day we can replace all of these samskaras with, devotional samskaras, or those samskaras that are in Shastra, because they actually help us. Like remembering Shrek and Puss in Boots, it doesn't help me at all in my life, like what does that have to do with me in my life? Nothing. But if you're able to remember Shastra in the difficult circumstances, then it can really, really help us. And if we can practice that in our life, in our daily life, when we have under certain circumstances, we can pull up a reference in the Bhagavatam and actually see that in our life, see through the eyes of the Bhagavatam, we actually become situated properly. And the more you practice that, and because life, we're all pretty young, at least we're all under 30 here. We have a lot of different difficulties and weird situations in our life that are to come. So if we get that practice in, then when those situations come by the divine arrangement of time, then we can, when we remember Krishna, when we remember the Shastras, when we remember all of these instructions, then we will become pacified at heart, and we won't act out of just nature, because it transcendentalizes us. Just like when we're able to remember Krishna's words and our Guru's words, it puts our mind in a transcendental position, because we're absorbed in that sound vibration of the Apurushaya, that which is not material. So we can overcome our different difficult situations in our life simply by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and His pure devotees. So we have Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavan, that by remembering these three people, Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavan, Tinera Smarana Hoy, Vigna Vinashan. What happens? Vigna Vinashan, Anayashe Hai Nija Vanchita Purana. Vigna Vinashan, all of the difficulties of life are destroyed, and one's real desire is fulfilled in his life. So this is a lot of these beautiful pastimes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a lot of lessons, and when you churn it, when you really discuss it, you sit down and you think about it, there's so much intricacies within this one passage, and this one verse, or this one pastime. So much to learn for sadachar, for behavior, for action. And so I'll end my class there. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Anything? Yes, Charulation Prabhu.
So, that is such a nice point you're making. This whole pastime here with Giant Vijay, accepting the curse of the Brahmanas, Narada Muni cursing, the sons of Kuvera. Especially in those instances, we see that, by acceptance of that Brahman's anger, they're protected by that actually, because it's not, like you said, it's never for their detriment. Even in the case where it's like somebody might be cursed because it might seemingly like externally look like, oh, this person is just doing it out of their anger, but they might be being protected from maybe committing further offenses also. So that can also be a form of protection. One interesting thing you were talking about, especially in relation to like this emphasis on culture and recognizing Brahminical culture, when you recognize somebody who's in that position, and there's that acceptance, you know. I guess I kind of wanted to lead into a question here because coming from like Western background, it's you know, and recognizing Vedic culture, recognizing the importance and emphasis on Brahminical culture can be quite difficult. And I know, like in my own case, I guess I wanted to ask because specifically you're talking about this point on pacifying the Brahmanas. I know, and generally one thing I struggle with is it's okay. So there's authority and there's recognition of that, and I need to act within that. But my problem I see is like I don't always feel as eager to pacify as I do to rectify. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not like I'm not so eager to like just like. Okay, yes, like, I'm like, not like I don't want to show respect, but I'm like, okay, well, they're angry because I did something wrong, so I need to fix something. It's like, so I'm like, but then sometimes that turns into just like dwelling on the problem in and of itself. It's like, it might not get fixed immediately. It might be something I had to gradually get purified of. So I guess what's the proper way to go about that? Because that recognition has to be there, but also, you see what I'm trying to like, ask?
It's a complicated situation sometimes in the sense that, just because, so ultimately a Brahmana or Vaishnava sees that somebody's following the instruction and that he's trying. And so sometimes you may instruct someone and they may do it with a smiling face, but they not actually follow it. So when Srila Prabhupada is talking here, he's not talking about just putting on a show. We're talking about actually feeling like that and actually submitting to those, actually coming to that position, you know, of actually having love and affection for the devotees, even though they're not acting exactly right in our life sometimes. So, and it doesn't have to be like that. It's not that every time it's also kind of like, you know, if somebody's angry at you and you just smile at them, and it's like, it might not help you the most. What I'm understanding here, what Srila Prabhupada is also saying is that one shouldn't exhibit the same anger back, and that, you know, and maybe you shouldn't just smile as you're getting chastised also. That might end up you might not end up in such a good position also. That will get you in another trouble position. Because that's the nature of the, you know, you got to see where, this is a little bit also dependent on what type of society you're in also. But what Srila Prabhupada is alluding to here is that you don't become angry at the Vaishnava and exhibit the same thing. Generally, in those situations, best thing is to just stay grave. Stay just, you know, undisturbed, not angry, and you don't best not to put on a smile when somebody's chastising the heck out of you. Please don't do that. No, that's not what exactly is being said here. But one should not hold that in his heart, and every time one sees that Vaishnava, it's just like, you look like you just saw the scum of the earth. We see that. So that's what I understand Srila Prabhupada is saying here. That makes the most sense, at least in terms of dealing with Vaishnavas. And so it should be that there may be a circumstance like that, and but then later down, next time you see the Vaishnava, it's not that you still have that same exhibiting that same weird tension sort of feel. But there should be, one approaches a Vaishnava in a happy mood and treats them nicely, such and such. So a Vaishnava ultimately also sees, a Brahmana also sees that individual is following the instructions. In that instance, he may not act according, because, he may kind of lose his temper a little bit or whatever. He may not speak exactly right. The Brahmana or the Vaishnava will overlook those things actually. He will see, ultimately, is he accepting and following what is right? That's what he ultimately sees. Because that's what he cares about. He doesn't care about his ego in the moment or what happens. It's like, how dare he not just submit to me on the spot? It's like, we devotees and Brahmanas, one quality of a Brahmana, like I was saying yesterday, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is the ability to understand others, this empathy, to be able to understand others and where they're at, and how they're feeling and such and such. So one may act like that, but later, the Vaishnava comes and apologizes and then follows those instructions and reforms himself and all that, there's no feeling for the Brahmana. He just wants to see that somebody's advancing in devotional service. That's all. It's like, for him it doesn't make a difference. Okay, like I've dealing in management and all that. Sometimes you have that. You're instructing someone and trying to explain something, and they just lash out, and it's like, all right. And instead I could get angry and go at him again, but in my head I'm going, well, I did my duty. He's not acting according to his duty. He has to suffer for that. I'm done. You learn at a certain point. Okay, that's it. And I'm learning that from Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj is such a perfect example of that. He does his duty, and at the end of it, it's done, finished. And you see him, that's the quality of a pure devotee, just doesn't disturb him at all. Just, okay. Doesn't want to follow, doesn't want to do this, all right, finished. And he's not fazed by it at all. Often, sometimes we're disturbed, somebody acts in a certain way, you're disturbed by it. But you'll be more disturbed if you act out of line. It's most of the time when we have arguments, we often regret how we acted and feel terrible, not for the situation that was there or whatever the other person said, but how we acted. Like, why did I act like that? That's ridiculous, why did I do that? And we feel terrible. I hope we do, some people don't. But it should be seen that, again, goes back to this duty and understanding one's position. If one learns what his position is and just acts according to that, and before he acts, you understand, okay, just like sometimes we get chastised or sometimes we have to chastise, but we're not doing it with anger in our heart. Almost we're doing it as a part of our duty. It's like, I love these guys, or I don't hate these guys, but I have to do this, otherwise, nothing is going to, it's not going to be good for them, or it's not going to be good for that individual, or good for this. So one does it out of duty, not out of hate. And so that's a very important quality of a devotee and a Brahmana, that he acts not out of his feelings, but he thinks about it, he philosophizes about it, and understands it all, and when he speaks, he's not influenced by anger. Although seeming angry, and that's why we see here in the Shastra, that you cannot understand the movements of a Vaishnava, because there's so much more going on beyond what externally is coming out. But for those who don't have a proper understanding, they can't see that. But for those who's been in devotional service for some time, and they've contemplated upon these things, they can see that. And then they take up on the instructions properly. So there's a lot of deeper, we should consider that it's difficult to understand the movements of a Vaishnava, especially those who are situated properly. Of course, those who are not situated properly, then that's a different case. Those who are not situated properly, then one has to act accordingly. But those who are situated properly, even though they act out of order, we should understand this is the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because this person is in line. He doesn't commit sinful activity. He's practicing, he's chanting, he's dedicating his life, he's fully surrendered to his Guru. Okay, he's made some mistake. Forget it. Let's move on. He's trying to rectify himself, and still he may commit because out of bad habit and such. Okay, all right. In time he'll become rectified, and I shouldn't consider him less. That's my duty. I do my duty. I'm safe, I'm safe. Let me keep myself safe. But that requires a lot of purification. So you're going to say, sir?
No, I was going to say conception. Even if I remember when I played football, for example, this is like super mundane, but that principle being there, it's like if a coach gets on an athlete like often, and he's like working hard, and he's good, he's like really like working hard, and the coach is like constantly getting on him. It's like even other athletes like recognize like, wow, like he really wants him to like be good, and that athlete also, if he's like not I don't want to say properly situated, but anyways, it's like if he's able to recognize that, it's like, okay, well then he can take that instruction and get better. And it's like the athlete knows, it's like, well, I remember like seeing, for example, on our teams, like there were certain athletes just like they were just terrible, would screw up all the time, and coaches didn't even care to like give it. They're just like, this guy's like a lost cause. It's like a hopeless guy, like whatever. It's like whatever. It's like just swap him out. Like they didn't even try to like put any time into. So even amongst karmis, that that recognition can be there. It's like, okay, like this person's chastising me, ultimately because they care. It's the same thing. It's the same principle, at least. Like, your seniors who are putting in the time and the effort to correct you are doing so because they care. And when one recognizes that, then they get purified. Whereas if they don't, they rob themselves of that chance to actually get that purification. And anyways, if I could share, I had like one instance I remember where I got chastised for something I didn't do. I went and tried to fix it, and then I got chastised again anyways. I'm like, and that was like really instructional for me, because I'm like, I tried my best. I'm doing what I can, but like, anyways, I'm like, if I sit here and get fried out, I mean, like, it's like, I'm gonna rob myself of the chance to get like purified in the situation. I mean, I'm just like, not to be like, oh, I did it. I mean, I did everything I could, and I was trying to do like what I thought, was going to fix the situation would be proper. It's just like, sometimes it just is what it is, and you kind of just have to accept it and be detached and move on with it, and it is what it is. And that was like really instructional for me. I'm just like, I did my duty, I did what I could. I got sussed out both times. It's like, it is. So it's like, what to do.
That's where one has to understand also that it's sometimes circumstances like that, and so one shouldn't blame like a person for that. And we see that in Avanti Brahmana's case. He's very instructional in the 11th canto. He says, who should I blame? The demigods, like my mind. Who do I blame? All of these nice instructions are there. So I've had that instances also where it's just like I was completely like, you could say in one sense right in what I did, and later it came out it was fine what I was doing. But in that instance I was getting chastised like anything. But I took it as, all right, because sometimes it's like, sometimes you're getting chastised and it's like, it's just, sometimes it's a little funny. It's like, because it's like, it's not the situation, but you get chastised for the situation that, it looks like the situation. But you kind of like, sometimes you say, all right, Krishna's acting like this. He wants me to learn something and he's pointing something out here. And I've had that. And that's taught me like a lot, like you're saying. I learned, and when you kind of like get chastised for something, and even if you think you're not a part of it, if you actually look a little deeper in yourself, you'll find it. And they may not have pointed out exactly that, but you can. Because somebody else has pointed out, and you go, oh, okay. If somebody's seeing something, a Vaishnava is seeing something, there must be something there. And so then one can rectify that. And, I've had that case, and it's helped me a lot. It's helped me a lot to take up on the position of, okay, there's some things in me, not that they're just doing the wrong thing, or that it's like he's just like getting on my case. He's wrong. He's all this. You can go on this trip for your life, but if you just say, okay, I've done something stupid. And the situation is not exactly what they're saying, but nonetheless there is something there, and you're protected by Krishna by doing that, actually. Just for taking the instruction and taking the essence of that, you're protected. And I felt that in my life, that when I took the instructions of my seniors in that way, they really helped me a lot. Looking back, so many things. And if I didn't have got those instructions, I don't know. I would have been in such a bad. Because Srila Prabhupada says the attitude. The advancement of Krishna consciousness is dependent on the attitude of the follower. So it helps us rectify our attitude and gain faith also. So when we have that mindset and we follow in that mindset, I've noticed that my dealings with my seniors over time have become much easier because I've gained faith in what they've said. Because if I apply that, I see a difference in my life. Whether they were externally wrong or not, in that situation, that I don't even care about, because I understand that the principle is right. And so one has to like do some vichar like this. The achar, vichar, and prachar, those three things. Vichar is very, very important in one's life. One thinks about things, one discusses things, one sees in the ultimate run, if this Vaishnava, I felt betrayed by, but if I continue having this sour feeling towards him, what's the benefit? To me and to him, and to what's the benefit? What do you get? And if you really sit down and think about it, it's probably nothing, but just issues. And so then one has to learn to renounce that. So this is the way to to move forward, to actually have proper good dealings with Vaishnavas, to see them in proper light like this. Not that we see everybody as love and rainbows and all of this, that's not what I'm saying, but to see where are the devotees at? What do they get agitated by? What are they not agitated by? Okay, let me not agitate them. So one has to kind of proceed like that in his life. Is there anything else? Yeah, and you have anything, Navani? Hold on. Anything over here? Abhiyan, Krishna Kumar, Joshua, thank you for joining. Very much appreciate it. Okay, you have one more thing.
Yeah, so I was just thinking it's interesting. It always, like you said, it comes back to the attitude and ultimately the sincerity of the practitioner, ultimately. And then that point you were making about how ultimately you should just, that anger is not good to hold on to. It's not conducive. It's not beneficial for you or for the other person or anybody involved. Guru Maharaj made that same point. I think it was like the second lecture in the guru issues. He was like, somebody like reached out basically and like asked like, okay, well, my guru, I surrendered to them and they fell down from that position and I'm just like so angry and years and years and years have gone on and they're like, what do I do about it? And Guru Maharaj is like, it's might sound hard, but you got to just give it up. You just got to like give up this anger because it's like what you're holding on to this. And it's like, what's the point? It's not going to change the situation. It's not going to make your consciousness any better either. So it's not conducive for anything. So and again, it's hard, but it's yes.
That's why Krishna emphasized that in the Gita also, that the yogi understands where others are. Somebody fell down, but you could be in that situation. You could be, everyone's perfect. So then one has to say, okay, what if that happened to me? How would I like to be treated? That's always a good way to kind of, what if I ended up in this situation, I did something stupid like that, how would I like to be treated? By the Vaishnavas, would I want to be neglected and shunned by, how would, so that's always a good way to go about it also. Okay.